tonight is Ustad Ahmad Ansari. He's appearing for 77th time today, mashallah. And his topic tonight will be part 2, the sabr, the quality of patience itself. So tonight's topic is this one. Mashallah, will be able to benefit from his session tonight. May Allah bless you, Ustad Ahmad Ansari, for your coming to this halqa itself. All the halqa members pray for you complete shifa from the thing that you went through. So may Allah bless you and your parents for coming to our halqa itself. MashaAllah.
Ameen.
Then we have, looks like Imam Abu Yazid was just anticipating, but it's again a blessing for us to have Imam Abu Yazid in the Quran session is 284. And where Imam Abu Yazid left last time was Surah number 17, Al-Isra itself. And then we can, please mute yourself. Please, Hala, our sister Hala. Thank you. We have Quran session 284 itself. And last time also, Abu Yazid pointed out when somebody recites, please unmute yours. No, don't unmute yourself. Just mute yourself. So our reciter can do the full justice in, in his recitation. Anyway, so we are blessed to have Imam Abu Yazid tonight, 187th time tonight, mashallah. And he'll be doing Surah 17, Al-Isra. And, he's very smart to tell me, I think, what ayah he's going to do that. So I think he knows what he has to do. So I don't want to just do that.
Yep.
So, mashallah, I think it's 80 something, right? Is it? 70, right?
Huh?
It's 70?
Yes.
70. Yeah. No, the ayah number.
Oh, the ayah number is 70, Abd Majid.
That's correct, yeah. So it's please open your Quran. Request is being made. So that you can fully, benefit from the recitation of Imam Abu Yazid itself, our mentor, our teacher. And he is going to recite ayah number 70 of Al-Isra itself. So we just, the last part of Imam Abu Yazid itself, may Allah bless all the deceased relative that you lost. Imam Abu Yazid itself, and especially your mom and your brother who we lost them very recently. Allah grant them the highest place in Jannah, mashallah. And thank you for coming in, Imam Abu Yazid, to our halqa itself. As always, we are very thankful to you for it. Jazakallah khair on that. And then we have Imam Shibli itself appearing for 493rd time, mashallah. I think he's a certain Iqna session itself. So we shall see how he'll be available during the translation summary or tafsir ayah recited itself tonight itself. As regard the timeline goes, we have a 20-minute time slot for the Quran session itself, and 40-minute time slot is for our speaker tonight. And that's about it. The floor belongs to Imam Muhammad. Jazakallah khair, and thanks for coming to our halqa, mashallah.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, brother Abdul Majid. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Abu Yazid.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله.
تفضل يا أخي.
أفضلت يا شيخنا. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. ولقد كرمنا بني آدم وحملناهم في البر والبحر ورزقناهم من الطيبات وفضلناهم على كثير ممن خلقنا تفضيلا. يوم ندعو كل أناس بإمامهم فمن أوتي كتابه بيمينه فأولئك يقرؤون كتابهم ولا يظلمون فتيلا. ومن كان في هذه أعمى فهو في الآخرة أعمى وأضل سبيلا. وإن كادوا ليفتنونك عن الذي أوحينا إليك لتفتري علينا غيره وإذا لاتخذوك خليلا ولولا أن ثبتناك لقد كدت تركن إليهم شيئا قليلا إذا لأذقناك ضعف الحياة وضعف الممات ثم لا تجد لك علينا نصيرا وإن كادوا ليستفزونك من الأرض ليخرجوك منها وإذا لا يلبثون خلافك إلا قليلا سنة من قد أرسلنا قبلك من رسلنا ولا تجد لسنتنا تحويلا أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا ومن الليل فتهجد به نافلة لك عسى أن يبعثك ربك مقاما محمودا وقل رب أدخلني مدخل صدق وأخرجني مخرج صدق واجعل لي من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا وقل جاء الحق وزهق الباطل إن الباطل كان زهوقا وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين وننزل من القرآن ما هو شفاء ورحمة للمؤمنين ولا يزيد الظالمين إلا خسارا وإذا أنعمنا على الإنسان أعرض ونأى بجانبه وإذا مسه الشر كان يئوسا قل كل يعمل على شاكلته فربك أعلم بمن هو أهدى سبيلا ويسألونك عن الروح قل الروح من أمر ربي وما أوتيتم من العلم إلا قليلا ولئن شئنا لنذهبن بالذي أوحينا إليك ثم لا تجد لك به علينا وكيلا إلا رحمة من ربك إن فضله كان عليك كبيرا قل لئن اجتمعت الإنس والجن على أن يأتوا بمثل هذا القرآن لا يأتون بمثله ولو كان بعضهم لبعض ظهيرا ولقد صرفنا للناس في هذا القرآن من كل مثل فأبى أكثر الناس إلا كفورا وقالوا لن نؤمن لك حتى تفجر لنا من الأرض ينبوعا أو تكون لك جنة من نخيل وعنب فتفجر الأنهار خلالها تفجيرا أو تسقط السماء كما زعمت علينا كسفا أو تأتي بالله والملائكة قبيلا أو يكون لك بيت من زخرف أو ترقى في السماء ولن نؤمن لرقيك حتى تنزل علينا كتابا نقرأه قل سبحان ربي هل كنت إلا بشرا رسولا وما منع الناس أن يؤمنوا إذ جاءهم الهدى إلا أن قالوا أبعث الله بشرا رسولا قل لو كان في الأرض ملائكة يمشون مطمئنين لنزلنا عليهم من السماء ملكا رسولا قل كفى بالله شهيدا بيني وبينكم إنه كان بعباده خبيرا بصيرا ومن يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد لهم أولياء من دونه ونحشرهم يوم القيامة على وجوههم عميا وبكما وصما مأواهم جهنم كلما خبت زدناهم سعيرا ذلك جزاؤهم بأنهم كفروا بآياتنا وقالوا أإذا كنا عظاما ورفاتا أئنا لمبعوثون خلقا جديدا صدق الله العظيم.
جزاك الله إمام، جزاك الله.
وجزاكم
الله خير شيخ أبو يزيد، وتقبل الله منا ومنكم ورحم الله والديكم إن شاء الله.
اللهم آمين، اللهم آمين، وأنتم جميعا إن شاء الله. حبيبنا أبو أحمد حياكم الله.
تقبل الله جمعتكم إن شاء الله.
والجميع إن شاء الله حياكم الله.
شكرا يا أخي.
حياك الله.
Brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think Sheikh Ahmad is in the meeting. He cannot be with us. For that, we'll give the time direct to Ustad Ahmad al-Ansari. تفضل أستاذ أحمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله، وأصلي وأسلم عليه وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي، ثم أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام.
Jazakallahu khairan for giving me a chance to be back again on a Friday night. And my topic is the same, the quality of patience, sabr. And the purpose is to know a little bit more from different aspects so that in our practical life, we learn how to be patient in different situations as we go along in our life, because there are many situations that we face. We need to practice patience, and at some time it becomes extremely difficult for us to be in control of ourselves. So as a result, we lose patience. So just a quick summary of the points that we covered last week. We said that Rasulullah says, the case of the believer is wonderful, and this special characteristics is given only to a believer, that in both situations, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps him in good shape or he keeps him in a bad shape, in both of these situations, he either turns out to be thankful if he is in a good, comfortable position, or he is patient if he is otherwise. The second point was that this life of this world is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests people through different ways, and this is Allah's plan. And he says that testing is my habit, we have tested people before you. And why we test people? To filter out their level of being truthful and if they are with liars. So if they lie. And then we learned the third point. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests people in different ways. One of the ways that Allah tests people is mal, by giving them money, and awlad, children. Innama amwalukum wa awladukum fitna, we talked about it last week. Then we said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests people through good, khair, and through evil. So these are other two ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests people. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives a life of fear. He tests people by putting them in fear or leading them a life of fear. So it means safety has been taken away. That's another type of test. So mal, children, good, evil, and fear. There are 5. The 6th one is al-ju', hunger. A lot of people feel comfortable. They have lots of food, sources of sustenance, and to some, he restricts sources of sustenance, and to some, he does not give them anything. So as a result, they are facing hunger and starvation. So that's 7. Naqsim min al-amwal, loss of life. People lose a job. They don't have money. So that's 8. Loss of life, that's 9. And finally, loss of fruit and vegetations. Now, what is sabr? This is today. So the Arabic word sabr is actually sabar. The Arabic word is sad, ba, and ra, sabar, which means al-habsu wal-mana'. It means to hold yourself, to stop yourself, to be in control of himself, to self-restrain himself, to stop yourself, to suppress your desires. So sabara also means intadara, to wait, to hold. Because a lot of time we feel excited, because when we ask something from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we cannot wait. We want that our desire to be fulfilled in the quickest possible time. Sabr, actually, the ulama described, said, quwwatun, it's an ability to tumakkinu al-insana min dabti nafsihi, which enables the person to hold himself, makes it stronger. Why? لِتَحَمُّلِ الْمَشَاقَّ, to bear difficulties, painful situations. Wal-alam, the same meaning. So if we do not have patience, and if we go through difficult life, suppose someone else dies in our family, someone gets injured, someone got sick, other unpleasant situation happens. As a result, we lose patience. We cry, we show discomfort, and we lose patience. Now, the ulama says that there are 3 types of patience. And it is important to know these 3 types of patience. So the first type of patience is called sabrun ala ta'atillah wa ada'il wajibat. That's the most important sabr. Sabr in performing, in obeying Allah and fulfilling our obligations due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, for example, waking up till Fajr, making wudu and walking to the masjid, performing salah, performing ibadas, doing acts of obedience, and abstaining from disobedience, doing acts of disobedience in any form and type. It means I am doing patience and I'm worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This includes and not limited to all acts of obedience, either salah or other ibadat, patience to perform duties, yani arkan al-Islam. For example, Sawm. Sawm requires lots of patience. The whole day we just witness Ramadan and we fulfill this month of fasting with lots of patience. Also, muamalat, dealing with each other, requires a lot of patience, because there are good relationship and there are some bad relationship as well. Nawafil, Quran, masajid attendance, and tanafus bil khair, competing in goodness. All this comes in the first category, which means sabr in obeying Allah through whatever means we can, and performing our wajibat, our due obligations. That's the first title. And without patience, we cannot even perform our salah. Salah requires a lot of patience. For example, going to the masjid and standing behind the imam. If the imam makes the salah a little longer, we cannot do anything. All we need to do is patience. All we feel tired. Shaitan distracts us from salah and takes our khushu' away, but we cannot do anything. We are only following the imam. If he makes some more minutes. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu ista'inu bis-sabri was-salah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, seek help with patience and seek help with salah. That's the first type. The second type of patience is sabrun anil ma'asi wal muharramat. Patience, showing patience in staying away from disobedience, sins, and unlawful things. Anything and everything which is haram. And I stay away from it. That requires lots of patience. Because disobedience, Shaitan makes it attractive, appealing. Shaitan distracts me and shows me that act in a nice way, in an appealing way. So sinful attraction are attracted, are, looks to me more appealing or attractive. For example, and this includes and not limited to all sinful actions in speech. Like I say something which is forbidden, or I do some actions which are forbidden. So as soon as I remember, I express my self-restraint. I hold myself. So I'm patient. So I stop. I wearing clothes or dress or attire that shows my body, or wearing something which is not right. The dress is not decent. Or, my dealings, my muamalat, my business, my interactions with other people, business deals. So there are haram and there is halal. So staying away from anything and everything in my business which is displeasing to Allah, it requires patience. Then all my intentions, my desires, my temptations, halal and haram issue. So I have lots of patience, and I try to see that all what I get for me and my family in terms of food and other items is halal. Then all the relationship issue, people maintain relationship with wife, with families, with children, with other people. Say, nowadays, there is a kind of relationship between two opposite genders. Many ways of relationship is haram. So staying away from that relationship also needs both patience and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we fear Allah and we have patience, we definitely stay away from making those or staying away from all sins and forbidden items. So the first item is sabrun ala ta'atillah. Sabr in obeying Allah and fulfilling our obligation. That's the first one. The second one, sabr against committing sins and illegal and haram and forbidden actions or speech. And the third and last thing is sabrun ala al-masa'ib wal baliyat, showing patience over calamities, disasters, some actions that come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mass actions. Like for example, a lot of rain, excessive rains, tornadoes, any trouble, any other calamities, musibah, something that befalls on believer, his wealth, health, his family, his household, his his possessions, belongings, families, anything unpleasant. This includes and not limited to sudden death, sickness, accidents, and then this also includes other disasters, including floods, tornadoes, earthquakes. So these are the places where we need to have sabr. So these are the three types of sabr. And sometimes sabr becomes so difficult. So the more we understand what sabr is and we understand what reward is, and then we show some patience, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us. Sabr is fard. According to Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, sabr wajib. So we have to show patience if it requires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "O Muhammad, we know what they do to you, the mushrikeen, that hurt your heart. You feel sad about them." So he said, "Wasbir ala ma yaqulun." Be patient on what they say, because we know that it's hurtful to you. Wahjurhum hajran jamila, and leave them alone in a beautiful way. Just turn away from them. And in our life, the behavior of some people, sometimes sadly and unfortunately from the relatives among us, their behavior is kind of bad. That hurts us personally. So sometimes in those situations, all we need to do is to just leave them alone for some time. Not answering them is the best of strategies. Because if we talk about that, they say something and we say something, then they say something. So these unnecessary arguments makes matters sometimes more painful, more difficult. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Rasulullah, the O Messenger of Allah, the 5 top messengers of the firm determination: Ibrahim, Nuh, Musa, Isa, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they all showed remarkable patience. So, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you do sabr like them, like the 4 before you, like Ibrahim. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Ibrahim that I wanted to test the level of your love, so go ahead and sacrifice your only son, who's about 13 years of age, sacrifice for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah wanted to know his level of patience. And we will come to this example in just a minute. Now, some recommended areas of sabr nowadays. When the sabr is required. So it's not that sabr comes, we don't know when. Sabr can be needed anytime. So I listed some possible areas where we need to show patience. Number 1, all the difficult situations from all types and kinds. Any situation, and these situations are different from family to family to family. In every family, there are situations that according to that family situations and circumstance are painful and difficult. So we cannot describe what happens in one family. Something else happens in some other family situation. Like, for example, I'm going to give you an example. We just learned that awlad is also fitna. Allah tries some ways. So I met this brother who has a grocery store. One day I found him very sad. So I asked him what happened. And he was worried about his own child. And then when he told me, my wife says that I wish my son spends some time, at least one breakfast in 1 week with us. So I said, how old your child is? I said, he is older brother. I said, how old is he? He said, he is 24. So he said, I asked him, doesn't he live with you? He said, yeah, he does. So he said, I didn't understand what's happening. He said it has been like around 10 days that his mom says, I didn't see him. So I told him he lives somewhere else. He said, no, he lives with us. And he comes at home very late at night, that me and my wife and everyone else is sleeping. And then he keeps on sleeping until 12 while I am gone to work. And then he leaves. He goes where, his school, or he works, we don't know anything. So that's the whole schedule. So my wife sometimes becomes so patient and she cries, at least can you tell my son, have one breakfast. So people are facing difficult situations, some because of children. So this is just an example. Then when a person had a feeling of disappointment, hopelessness, some situations makes people disappointed. And you can always judge what does that mean. In many, many homes, there are hopeless situations. People reach to a point of no return. So there is only disappointment and hopelessness that leads to anxiety. So in this situation, Sabr is required. Sabr is extreme anger. The third one, if a person has anger issues or he doesn't have control over her emotions or over his emotions, both. So if we have anger issue, emotional issues, then in this area, also we need to have patience. And number 4, we list that if there is a situation of fear, a person feels that he is fearful, he's afraid of something, or anxiety issue, or lack of safety issue, he's not feeling secure. So lack of security, and when the person feels insecure, then he feels fear, and fear leads to discomfort and then on to anxiety. So in that situation also, we need to keep patience and fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have hope that Allah will help. Sometimes we ask dua to Allah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anything and everything. And we need to have a desire to have early results. So suppose we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help me with something, and that's not materializing. And as a person, I am so depressed, so anxious, that I'm asking Allah to give me quick results. I want to see quick results, and it's not happening. It's taking time. Suppose I'm waiting for something, and day after day, week after week, nothing is happening. So in that situation also, we need to be patient. Or a person becomes the victim of desire. Now, desire is of 2 types. Halal desire, something which is good, and sometimes the desire is not good. It's a haram desire. So in both these situations, we need to, or a person becomes in a situation that he or she started having a feeling of falling into haram. Yani, the person is about to commit something, forbidden something displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, haram, or falling into haram. So in that situation also, we need to say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah and maintain some patience. So these are quick 7 situations that I listed. In all these difficult situations, when a person feels disappointed in terms of anger and emotional disturbances, fear, anxiety, or lack of safety, or desire to have early result in anything that I want to have for myself or for my family, becoming a victim of desire, that also needs patience. Or there is a fear of falling into committing something haram, that also needs to have patience. Brother Abdul Majid, how many minutes I have?
You have 17 minutes, 17.
Okay, sure. Now, some of the examples. Now, one of the biggest example of patience is required when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts a person into a big test. Now, imagine the situation that Sayyidina Ibrahim found himself. Sayyidina Ibrahim, all the way until his old age, doesn't have any child. Suddenly, after 80 years, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants him a child. Can you believe a man becoming old? An 80-year-old man, he suddenly got a child. He is very excited, very happy that finally in his old age, Allah gave him a gift of child. So Sayyidina Ismail is born. And then after that, when he grows up and he's able to walk with him, like a teenage, then suddenly Allah decides to take a test. He wanted to test the level of Ibrahim's love and obedience for him. He said, present your son in sacrifice to me. So Ibrahim, he psychologically think of that situation. If we were to ask, have been asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the only beautiful, humble, beautiful child that I have, and Allah is asking me to give him in sacrifice to Allah. It's very difficult. But then Ibrahim was patient, and Ibrahim something so smart. As soon as Allah commanded him what to do with this child, he just did not grab his child. Instead of doing something hastily, he called his child, Ismail, and he explained to him. He told him what Allah wanted him. He told him, I saw a dream. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told me to give you in sacrifice to him. Then, give me 1 minute, let me open those ayat. So when we listen to those ayat, then we will find out how hard it is and how we feel what? Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman. Brother Abdul Majid, can you open the Quran.com? As-Safat, ayah number 100. Can you do that? Or let me open it. Give me 1 moment. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Can I share the screen? Can you enable, Sheikh Muhammad, can you enable the screen share?
Yes, you are co-host. You can share it.
Okay. Let me try one more time. All right. Okay, طيب. Now we'll go ayah by ayah.
Yes, you can see it.
You see my screen?
Yes.
Ayah number 100. $37. All right. طيب. See ayah number 100? Allah subhanahu
Yes.
wa ta'ala says,
Yes.
he made a dua. رَبِّ هَبْ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Are you able to watch?
Yes.
Look, so he said, oh my Lord, give me a child from among the righteous. So from the very beginning, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him a child that has salah. That's from the righteous. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a good news. So we gave him a good tiding of a forbearing boy. He said, okay, I'm going to give you a righteous child that will have the salah and righteousness from his childhood. And then what happened? فلما بلغ معه السعي قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام. When he reached with him the age of exertion, that he is able to work with him, he said to him, O my son, indeed I have seen in a dream that I must sacrifice you. So see, what do you think? And subhanAllah, he did not just grab him and put him to sacrifice as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded him. Instead, he thought that my son is 13 years old. He's able to listen. He's able to understand. He's confident. So he put the issue to him in a way that he can discuss with him about the situation. So he said, فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. What do you think? What's your opinion? Are you ready? Are you willing to do that? Should I do that? Are you ready? And of course, he's trying to tell him that this will be hard. This would be even painful at this younger age. قَالَ يَا أَبَتِي. He said, oh my father, افْعَلْ مَا تُؤْمَرْ. Go ahead and do what you have been commanded to. سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. So he said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go through this test, a hard test. An 80-year-old father putting his only lonely young son, who he got after 80 years of age. So he said, I am patient. You can go ahead and fulfill commands from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this was the result of Ibrahim's tarbiyah, the way he took care of him. From the very beginning, he made him obedient. He made him good. And then the ayat also tell him the detail. And then when he fulfilled his task, what happened? وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَنْ يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. We called to him, O Ibrahim, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. You have fulfilled the vision. Now, whatever you said to, we said to him, Yani Allah, you have completed. You have passed the test. You have fulfilled our commandment. And thus we reward the doers of good. So you actually did something which Muhsinin do. Your action of giving Ismail in sacrifice to Allah's command is an act of al-ihsan. And the person who does the act of ihsan becomes muhsin. And if someone does ihsan, we regard him. And then Allah himself told him, indeed, this was a clear trial. This test was huge, was big, not like ordinary test that me and you get in this life. The Anbiya, their trial, their test is much, much harder, much, much difficult because of the status that Anbiya are in. Their iman is very strong. Their sabr is very strong. So our sabr, our iman is weak. So the level of our patience is weak. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us simple, easy test in our life because we are not able, neither we can't bear to go through tough tests and trial and turmoil in this test. But the Anbiya, their personality is stronger. Their level of steadfastness and iman and trust in Allah is very, very strong. So their test level is very strong. So when Ibrahim fulfilled this big, difficult trial, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, Inna hadha lahu al-bala'ul mubin. Indeed, that trial was clearly demonstrated their evidence. It was indeed a hard trial. And then we ransomed him a great sacrifice. So tajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. So this is one of the biggest example of patience. The second example is, which is this man is actually considered the symbol of sabr. Sabr Ayyub. And from all the prophets, Ayyub alayhi salam sabr is considered sabrun mithali, the ideal sabr. Because Sayyidina Ayyub went through a turmoil which was very, very different from all other tests. His was a very, very difficult, painful test. And he has gone through test in layers, like one thing after one thing after one thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested him in many, many different ways. He was a very handsome man, Sayyidina Ayyub. He was very healthy. He was living a life of luxury. He was safe. He was very healthy. No sickness ever touched him. He was very, very healthy, very handsome, and very rich. He had properties. He had belongings. He has gardens. He has lands. And then he had a nice family, had a lot of children. He had servants. He has livestock. He has animal. Yani, no matter what you can imagine from the good things in this life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And he was living a comfortable life. And on top of all this, he was a beautiful, handsome man, and he was well-mannered. He was a kind, very soft-spoken, the nicest man in town. People loved him. People respected him because of his character. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides, he first gave him all what makes him happy. And he never had any trouble during his lifetime. Then Allah wanted to test his level of iman and the level of his test. So Ibn Asakir, the historian, he says, when Allah decided to give him test, فَسُلِبَ مِنْهُ ذَلِكَ كُلُّهُ. Then Allah took it away, everything that He gave it to him. Can you imagine? A person has everything that we can humanly imagine to have possessed in this dunya. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his animals died, he lost his family, servants, wealth, everything. When everything was ruined, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not stop here. And then he said, وَابْتُلِيَ فِي جَسَدِهِ بِأَنْوَاعٍ مِّنَ الْبَلَاءِ. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a test in his skin. He made him sick. And he had lots of skin diseases. وَلَمْ يَبْقَ مِنْهُ عُضْوٌ سَلِيمٌ سِوَى قَلْبِهِ وَلِسَانِهِ. Every single part of the body of Sayyidina Ayub was affected from the disease, from the sickness, except his tongue and his heart. Other than that, all over his body, it was, bleeding. It was torn and blood and the skin disease everywhere. It was very, very painful situation, unable to move. So people, he started diverting him. They deserted him. They stopped coming to Ayub alayhi salam. They stopped meeting with him. Before, everybody loved him. Everybody used to sit with him. Now, he was alone. Only his wife used to come. And what he used to do? Yazkurullah ta'ala. He always keeps on remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَهُوَ صَابِرٌ مُحْتَسِبٌ. And he kept patience. And he used to say, yes, so what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he used to say, عِشْتُ سَبْعِينَ سَنَةً صَحِيحًا. I lived for 70 years very healthy. No sickness. وَهَلْ قَلِيلٌ لِلَّهِ أَنْ أَصْبِرْ. So if this will be something that I become impatient, if Allah gave me this disease, so I am always patient with that. Now, for how long he remained in this situation? Wahb ibn Munabbih, there is a tabi'i who says, for 3 years, he remained in this situation. Very, very sick, afflicted with a terrible, terrible skin disease. There was another scholar, Anas, he says, 7 years and some months. There was another scholar, Humayd, who says 18 years. His sickness lasted 18 years in this situation. So he kept on in this situation. Brother Abdul Majid, how many minutes I have?
Time is up, I think.
Okay. So I just wanted to stop here. Inshallah, the last part we will cover, inshallah, next week. And we will talk about the awards and rewards of patience. And we will complete the story of Sayyidina Ayub alayhi salam. So sabr is something, is a characteristic and a trait that is difficult sometimes. And the result sometimes comes late, after so many sacrifices. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the quality of patience and make us stronger with patience and steadfastness in our life. If you have any-
Jazakallah khair. Very good.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad Ahmad. Inshallah, we ask you for your dua, please, before you leave, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين، إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك، أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت، أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad Ahmad. Thank you. Inshallah, we give love to everybody. I don't know, Ahmad is not with us, but this is our salam, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum
Go and see him.
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fi aman Allah.
Wa alaikum assalam.